The lake is in good shape. It's handleable. It's safe to swim. The fish are safe to eat in it. The villages are doing okay. There's quite an impressive, gratifying interest by the villages in getting their wastewater treated, which is not true in the rest of Mexico. Politics is turning up right now. In a few weeks, we'll see 9 political parties vying for positions here. One of the candidates for President Chapala is in this group today. And there may be others, I just haven't spotted them. But it's going to be a very active political period of time because we're in the pre-candidate phase right now where you can't say what you're going to promise, and you can't pass out the tequila, and you can't start up the band, but you can just say, you know, what a great person you are. So that's going on right now. And in about March, they'll decide which person is going to be for the PRI and the PON and the PRD and the Conferencia, the Conferencia is now this year the Movimiento Party, something like that, and the Moreno Party and the Verde Party. There's a lot of them out there, okay? So you might start to see that. And so things have changed a lot for me this particular year, that in Mexico, we have a 3-year cycle for the mayors in the villages and the presidents in the state, or the county rather, okay? And so first year they come into office and they try to find out how they spell the name on the door in many cases, or what their responsibility is, and they're looking for money. It takes a while to find out all the different programs at the federal level. The second year, there's a good time for me to do projects because there's money, and the third year people are getting ready to go, okay? So we're in that third year right now, and so I'm involved in 12 villages at this time. I'm usually doing a little bit here and there with villages, and I'm doing a big project somewhere, but this year I'm doing a lot of planning because I want to put plans on the table so all the villages know that something good can happen. And by the way, if you want this to happen, probably this president is going to be the one you have to elect. So that sounds terribly political, but I am biased on trying to get projects done in villages. You know, my priorities here for the last 13 years have been the poor people in the villages and the lake. Those are my priorities. But interestingly, as I go around the more and more villages this year, I'm in one right now where I visit the delegado, the mayor, 3 times, and twice he was dead drunk. And he put his arms around me and he just loved me, you know. But I don't think he heard a word I said, you know. And the good thing is in 3 other villages I had lady mayors now, okay? And they are focused, they're dedicated, they love their people, they have information, they're helpful, you know, I'm gratified. So there's interesting things that are happening out there. But again, there's a lot greater interest this year in wastewater. In Mexico, they don't talk about wastewater. At the national level, they say sanitation, okay? Sanitation is defined really as there's a sewer that will take the water somewhere else, okay? It has nothing to do with treatment, all right? The 20 million people that are in the Mexico City area, you know, when they flush a toilet, it just goes away. It doesn't get treated, all right? Here in Guadalajara, as of this last year or so, they now finally have the city covered with wastewater treatment plants. Guadalajara being the #2 city in the country. But in general, about 30% of the waste in Mexico is treated. The rest of it goes over to her house, you know, or over to his house or someplace like that. So you'll see the statistics will talk like maybe 80% of the villages will have sewers, okay? All right, and they do have that. And the biggest problem I have with the people in the villages, particularly here, is there's a sewer pipe in the street, but he doesn't want to connect because he thinks that if he connects, the government will take over his house. And so there's that perception in the mind, and they won't connect to the sewer. Okay? The other problem is that the government should make the connection from the sewer pipe over to the sidewalk, and then the person can connect. And the government hasn't done that. Okay? And so there's issues like that that are sort of interesting. Anyway, well, let me go back and see if I can read anything here. I took questions from people around, walking around a little bit, and people were talking about why there's no boating here. You know, and the main reason is the lake is totally under political control, okay? Totally under political control. The volume of the lake, the level of the lake, there's less than a 10% correlation with the rain, okay? The river that feeds the lake, the Lerma River, is 750 kilometers long, and it goes through 5 states. The 4 states above us take the water in very large amounts, okay? Nothing's metered. It's all this, you have the right to get water, you have the right to get water, you have the right to get water. And by the way, the organization that sells the right to get water is the one that's supposed to be allocating the water evenly across the country. But by selling the concessions to these people, they make 40% of their budget. So do they sell water to these people here, or do they let water come to the lake where they don't get any money? Okay? That's the major political problem. And my major challenge is to try and have the governor in Jalisco, who is at the end of the line here, to take a position for more water in the lake and eventually a full lake, so we can flush out the accumulated minerals that have got into it in the last 35 years that no water has flowed out of the lake. Okay, that's my main need. Okay, and I've tried for 2 years to reach the governor, have not been successful. The greatest need I have from you is if anybody has any contacts with a journalist in a newspaper published in Guadalajara who might, you know, adopt my stories or let me publish my stories. I have a dozen 500-word stories that define the problem very well. But that's my greatest need. Of course, I always welcome people who like to ride along with me. You know, some people want an adventure. You know, the speaker next week, Barbara, wherever she is, there she is. You know, she was riding with me one day, and we were going down a steep mountain road, you know, down to the lake, and a rock jumped off the road, knocked off the brake lines, and we started going faster. and Barbara looked at me like, oh, you know, what's he going to do? You know, we have a lot of trust in that guy, but you know. But anyway, so I turned the car into the mountain, and bang, you know. And I said, okay, we're going to walk from here on down. And we came back up, and what are you going to do? Well, we're going to drive over the mountain to the other side and find a repair station. Oh, okay. And so I had a speed shift going down the mountain, and when I got to the 4-lane highway that I had to cross, you know, a day later, my email, she said that was the point when I was going to jump out of the car. A few weeks ago, I had a fellow with me, and after he was out all day, he said, this car is dangerous. So I told him, I got new brakes on it today. But anyway, I do welcome people who like to go out and see the villages, to see the people, to see what's going on, go out in the lake, hop in a boat with me, go out and see the fish, or something like that. If you want to do that, if you want to be involved with what I'm doing, or you want to know what I'm doing, give me your email address, okay? If you're not on my email right now, at the end of this time here, hit me up with your email address. The lake right now is about 48.2% full. It's about 13 foot below being full, okay? 13 foot, which is quite a bit. All right. I said something about boating a little while ago, but my mind roamed somewhere else. The reason there's no boating here is that to have a boat, you need a place to park the thing or tie it up, and you need a place to fill up with gasoline and all that. And if the lake is here one year and it's out here the next year, you know, nobody wants to invest in developing a marina. And until the lake becomes stable, okay, you know, that's not going to happen. Okay, so somebody was talking about the fish farms out here. I'm very, very pleased with this pilot project. We got $1 million pesos about 3 years ago from Sagarpa, and I told them, you know, I don't eat fish, but I'm going to show you how to raise fish, you know, and they had to trust me. And I'll show you how to build the cages and anchor them in the lake and do all that kind of stuff and feed them and medicate them and blah, 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 blah. And so now we're at the point about 2.5, 3 years away, and we have turned the cages over, 1 cage to each family, okay? So that cage is now the income for that family. And so we're creating up to 5,000, we're creating up to 5 tons of fish per 20-foot diameter cage. Okay, catch at 5 tons, 80 pesos a kilo, very high price, because we feed them corn, wheat, and soy, and they all get bought by the villagers before they can get to the rich people, because the poor people want them. And so a couple escaped to some restaurants up by Guadalajara, but it's gone very well. Okay, and so we've had a hiccup in between as we changed from the pond party, where I knew those people, those politicians for 10 years, to the pre-party, where all were new people, you know, again, studying the name tag over their office door. And so I think soon, probably within a couple of months, more money will flow to put cages here. Again, if we can use 1% of this lake for aquaculture cages, okay, and we only use 3% of the water in which the cages are, in other words, we spread them out, but there's no environmental problem, we can create 11,000 cages, 11,000 families for the job. You know, if in Mexico, which has 1.1 million hectares of open water in reservoirs and lakes like this, if we can do the same 1%, we can create up to 400,000 jobs. So it's a matter of politicians beginning to understand the potential for this, and then we move on. So things are going real well with that. The water to Guadalajara, you know, I was in the village the other day, and you know, I'm usually walking around the village, and I decided to crawl through the bushes and go down to the lake to see what was going on, okay? And one of my friends was with me, who does translating, Gerardo back here, he's been with me 12 years. Raise your hand, Gerardo. Yeah. So, Gerardo is my interpreter, bodyguard, you know, and project supervisor, okay? And so we're down there, and I'm checking on the water, and there's a bunch of little kids following me down, you know? And so we get back up, he says that, you know, those kids are spying on you, you know? And I said, why is that? Oh, well, didn't you see the 400 marijuana plants? So you run into all kinds of crazy things out there. So, but what I was talking about, the water to Guadalajara, yeah, there was an old guy down there, you know, and he probably had not been to Ajiac his whole life. Okay, that's too far to go. But he believed that Guadalajara was drinking up all the water in the lake. The reason the lake was low was Guadalajara. Okay, and I'm going to testify to you for the 1 millionth time. You know, the best friend the lake has is Guadalajara. Okay, and the reason is, if the lake went dry, 3 million people in Guadalajara would have to move away within a week. 3 million would have to move away in a week. So I'm telling you, there's a great encouragement or a great reason for Guadalajara, you know, pushing to have water in the lake. Unfortunately, they look at the lake as a water storage tank. And so what I'm hoping to do is to get to the governor, if you give me somebody I can read, talk to in the journal, in the newspaper, I'm hoping to get the governor to stand up, you know, to fill the lake up, okay? Get it filled up, get it flushed out, do that, and work with the other 5 states to keep it that way. But anyway, Guadalajara takes 1 foot of water off the lake per year. 1 foot. All right? 1 foot. No more, okay? All right. Unbeknownst to the public, you know, which means you and all the native people here, at the far corner of the lake near Ocotlin, there's a pumping station that was put in about 30 years ago, and that pumping station is pumping full bore, you know, out of the lake, okay, because the lake does not fill up to the gate. It's pumping over the gate into the Rio Zulu, about 100 meters away, which then flows into the Santiago, and then sends water down to Santiago, which Conagua then sells for irrigation. That water that's going down there is equal to the water that goes to Guadalajara. So, but people only talk about Guadalajara. Okay. Somebody said something. Oh, swimming. I said swimming's okay. The biological quality of the lake is very high. Okay. I think I told you before, I've had about 6 or 7 years of testing water at 25 locations around the lake, and the standard, you don't need to know what the number means. It's like 200, 220. That's the standard. If you get above that number, you know you're in bad shape. The lake is at 50. Okay, 1/4 of that standard. Okay. The lake is cleaner than the average California beach. But most of you people don't go out in the lake, okay? You come up to the edge here like this, and that's where you stop, right? I mean, I go into my armpits usually to get my samples, right? And somebody usually goes with me to pull me out if I get stuck in the mud. But if I go out about 200, 300 feet, and I put a bottle over the side, oh, look, that looks like Ciel or Santorini. You just bought it from the store. It is clear. Right? A couple of years ago, I brought a 5-gallon container of that water here, you know, and I put a little bit of chlorine in it, and after the lecture, I drank it, okay, to show you there's no problem, okay? 3 million people a day use that water in Guadalajara. somebody was talking about, has the Loch Ness Monster been found out here? And I said, it's darn hard to try and get under the water and hide yourself when the water's only about 14 foot deep. And I said, otherwise he might be here. So somebody said the lake is dead. No, the lake is not dead. There are two reasons why the lake is alive. And the main reason is the lake is shallow, only like say 12, 14 foot, and there's constant wind in every direction on the compass going across the lake. What that does is it creates waves, and the waves put oxygen into the water, right? And when you put oxygen into the water, oxygen likes to eat things, okay? Anything organic is what it eats, right? And so there's a high level of dissolved oxygen, 6, 7, 8 parts per million oxygen in the water, and it's constantly eating up anything that falls in there, even like waste. When I check a village where there's wastewater going directly into the lake, or a treatment plant that's not working, and I get in a boat, after I have gone about 1 kilometer, there's no further evidence of the waste. And that kilometer has been a great enough place to eat up what's there, okay? And there are about 15 or 16 wastewater plants around the lake. There's always 3 that are sort of having a problem, okay? And sometimes it's a technical problem, and sometimes it's a problem that somebody sold the chlorine, But anyway, they do get corrected. Oh, what is that out there? Oh, no boating. Yeah, said the fish are safe. We ran the largest fish testing program in the world a couple of years ago here. I tested 250 carp from 25 locations around the lake. I was in the lake for 2 months, going in before the sun rised every day and being there sometimes till the sun was going down at night. That showed that the level of, in this case I was testing for mercury, the level of mercury in the carp was similar to what you find in a can of American tuna fish, okay? It was around 40% of the limit. It's okay, no problem. The problem in the lake is that when the lake gets down to about 30% full, then the minerals begin to concentrate. You know how I take a glass of water, I put a teaspoon of salt in it? Oh, it tastes salty. If I let half of it evaporate, it really tastes salty, right? Because the minerals never go anywhere, they just get more and more concentrated. So it behooves, it's important for Guadalajara to understand that once the lake gets down to 30%, the processes for purifying water in Guadalajara are insufficient to give the people safe water, okay? Now, does the government ever tell them about the safe water? No, okay? Are there reports in the offices about water testing? Yes, okay? Can the people read these reports? No, at the county level they can't, okay? So I usually know the county people and they let me read the reports, okay? And so I usually have access to the filing cabinets and, we have problems, And so, anyway, the lake was down to about 15% full in 2002 was the lowest port, okay, June 2002, all right? So at that point, for 2000, 2001, 2002, those 3 years, the people of Guadalajara were getting water which was way beyond the standards, okay? They were getting too much lead, too much arsenic, too much mercury, okay? In 1955, it was already down to 11%. So those are the 2 times when the lake was very, very low, right? In recent years, the lake has been kept right around 40 or 50%, all right? I like to think, one of the things after I was trying to beat my way to see the governor up here, Aristoteles, I prepared a briefing mostly with graphics, okay, not words, okay? So the graphs were real clear on what's going on with the Lerma River, what's going on with the lake, and I sent it to the governor, but I got an email 2 months later from the state water people that they had gotten my report. And so they quickly scarfed it up, I think, because they didn't want him to know what I know, which they don't want to tell him, okay? Because they get paid by Conagua at the federal level, and so they don't want their little concession selling business to be multiplied. But anyway, I think they're responsible to a certain extent for controlling the gates on the 500 plus dams that are along the 750 kilometer long Lerma River, okay? Those dams now are sufficiently large, or in volume, to contain every drop of water that's in the lake, all right? And that's why, we can see the lake does not always get full, right? 35 years, right? Let me say this, from the time of Fred, and Dino, and Bam Bam, and who are those other guys? Somebody will remember Fred in that group. Since that time, up to 1920, the full flow of the Lerma River came into the lake. All right, the full flow, and there was enough water for the lake to change every year and a half to have new water. By 1990, 10% was coming to the lake. All right, that's the reason why the lake is down. That's the reason why the lake doesn't get full. It's not because, as the media tells you a lot of times, oh, it rained a lot or it didn't rain a lot. No. What's important is the rain along the 750 kilometers of the river, not here at Lake Chapala. Okay? That's a big change. Since 1990, there are several years when we got zero water. Okay, we did not get a cup of water. All right. Who's involved in controlling the water? Conagua is supposed to be in charge of it as per the Constitution, but Conagua has engineers like myself, and our fund is designing projects. Our fund is pouring concrete, bending steel, things like that. We have no fun, taking 20 angry people and trying to get them to agree, right? So they delegated that out to the states, okay? So, does Michel Khan want to talk to Jalisco about giving them the work? No. Does, one of these other states here, do they want to cooperate? No, right? They had meetings. They've had meetings for 30 years. They published piles of paper, which I've gone through, okay? And all they do is talk. All they do is talk. There's no action. Okay? And so that's why, again, the biggest need I need from you is somewhere where I can put things in the newspaper because I cannot reach the politicians. Okay. I can't read this stuff here either. Oh! So somebody asked me what was the role of ISIS at Lake Chapala. The young lady over here says I have 10 minutes left, and I haven't even looked at my notes here. Anyway, the big challenge is that along the Lerma River, 80% of the water is taken by irrigation, okay? And the people for 10,000 years have been growing corn, right? Corn, okay? If they grew tomatoes, for example, they could grow 1 hectare of tomatoes and make the same money they could make from 4 or 5 hectares of corn. And of course they would use 1/4 the water, all right? But does SAGARPA, which is responsible for agriculture, do they encourage or train the people to do that? No, okay? And Conagua will give them all the water they want, and so they grow corn. With them taking 80% of the water, how much do they contribute to the economy here in Jalisco? Okay? There's about 20 million people in the basin. You give them 80% of the water, and they give back to the economy 5%. Right? That's not a good deal, okay? I mean, there's better uses for the water. Right? So number one, they need to switch to other crops, which will make good money for them, make them much richer, and use less water. Number two, they have to not just flood the water. You don't just open the gate and cover this room here with 1 meter or 2 of water, and let it search into the ground. Right? You put out pipes, you put out things like that. I mean, with one of my sons, I'm deep into hydroponic greenhouses, okay? In an acre of land, we get 8,000 pounds of vegetables per week. 8,000 pounds a week out of the greenhouse, okay? We get 20 times as much vegetable out of a greenhouse as we get out of a farmer's field, okay? With 1/3 the water and 1/5 the fertilizer. That has to be the future of Mexico. That has to be the future of all the world, is we have to move more and more into greenhouses so we better use the space. And we do it in the desert, okay? I bought 300 acres there, $300 an acre. Can you buy $300 an acre? No. But that $300 an acre makes $800,000 a year in sales because it's a greenhouse. Okay. Now I'm happy to say my son has the first kosher greenhouse in the USA. I mean, one day we're out in the desert, and the telephones are ringing. Our Mexican laborers are being called by people. There's some strange people in town. We saw them here. They have black clothes on. They have black hats. They have curls down the sides, and they have canes. And they're coming towards your greenhouse. It wasn't ISIS, okay. But it was six rabbis, you know, and they said, we want to have some place in the United States to grow kosher vegetables because our greenhouses in Israel are getting beat up by the war all the time, you know. And you look like Israel, you know. And we heard that you're certified organic. And so we said, okay, come on in, you know. And so that's how we got started, okay. So we have a 20-year contract with those people right now. But anyway, there's so many things to talk about, you know. Okay. I am concerned about the pipeline to Guadalajara. As I said, the people have a wrong idea about the water coming out of the lake. In 1990, they were going to put in 2 pipelines to Guadalajara, okay? And they dug the ditch, and somehow, magically, when they got the first pipeline line in, the pocket was empty, you know? It happens a lot around here, okay? And so there should have been 2 pipelines because you ought to be able to shut one down and repair the other one and do things like that, okay? And there's a need for a second pipeline. But there's a guy around here, a politician, aspiring politician, okay? He's not he's not a high quality politician in my mind. But anyway, you know, he was the inventor of the tortilla machine, okay? And so he has a lot of coins in his pocket. And so he's the guy that's running around here saying, no aqueducto, okay? And so he puts all these little signs in the back of people's cars, you know, and people that can't read and write love it, okay? But people that are informed, I think, understand differently, okay? Again, Guadalajara is the big gorilla, okay? They can help the lake. It's just that we got to get the attention of the big gorilla, and if you give me somebody I can write to or put in the newspaper, I can do something, okay? Because I have the facts. I know what's going on. I mean, without being too egotistical. Okay. Where am I at here? Okay. Yeah, the main problem with water supply in the villages remains the distribution, the pipes coming down, okay? Because what happens in the village, they pump the water from this well up the hill to that tank called the deposito, and then a teenager runs up there and he turns on the valve and the water runs down the hill and it goes in these different pipes, okay? Without any engineers, they make all the pipes the same size, okay? And so a lot of water goes this side and a lot doesn't go that side, and so distribution is the number 1 problem with them. Probably the number 2 problem is that they're taking water out of wells, right? Out of wells. And there are towns around here where the wells are producing arsenic, and they're producing lead and fluoride and things like that. I took 2 things of water in my suitcase to the USA this past season, and again, it's hard to read this at all now, because this is really different print. But anyway, one bottle of water, you know, and for $75, they gave me, you know, 6 readings that I wanted, okay? All right? And so the only reading that had any merit at all was arsenic, okay? And it was at 14 parts per billion. The limit in Mexico used to be 50, and then 35, now it's 25. And in the lake, it's 14, okay? All right. And so in the U.S., we're trying to work at 10. But about 35 million people in the United States have water that's over 10, okay? Over 20, mostly in the southwest because of volcanic things. But the lake water here with the test, you know, the only thing that came up anywhere near something was arsenic. But not a problem. I have a little hippie village out near Tequila, okay, in the middle of Chapala, and they wanted me to do something because they were concerned about their water. And what I found was when the test came back here, you know, their arsenic level was arsenic level. Let me see. Yeah, arsenic level. Okay, their arsenic level was not 25, okay? It was 256. 10 times the amount of arsenic that is considered tolerable, okay? So I emailed them immediately and said, stop drinking the water. Huh? And so I said, I will come back and put in a reverse osmosis system for you, and we'll make our own bottled water garrafons, and we'll do that. But I'm telling you, these test data are good. My Mexican test data, when it comes to the government, is sometimes tweaked by political people. And so I can't always you know, rely on that. Okay. My eyeballs are running out, and I think the lady here is going to shoot me in a minute. What is more important here? I think it's maybe employment is something that I really am anxious in, and aquaculture told you about that. I'm looking at spring water. I find a lot of poor villages that have a spring on the side of the hill, and you and I know that spring water is probably the best water you can drink because it has an abundance of good minerals in it, okay? You know, calcium and magnesium and things like that. All right. The water you get here from Santorini, which is Pepsi-Cola, the water which is Coca-Cola, the water you get from Bonafont, which is Dannon, all international companies, all of that water is dead. Dead. You know, D-E-A-D. All right. My first name, Todd, when you take it with one D, means dead also in German. And so I always keep the second D. But nobody knows this, but they get used to the taste of water, okay? Whenever you do a water test with people, the water they pick, if you put 10 waters on the table, and the one they say is the best, it's always the one they've been drinking. Right? I don't care if it came from Siberia or what, you know. That's what they pick, all right? And so the Mexican people are getting used to the dead water from Santorini. What they pay for a bottle of water is 5 times what they pay for the water they get from the city, okay? 5 times. It's a terrible thing, okay? But anyway, spring water, what I want to do is I want to market through a bottling company the spring water, and then bring 10% of the money back to the village, right? And that way I think I'll be able to give almost every family about 5,000 pesos a month, if I can make that work, if I don't get eaten up by the bottler. The very, very best economic opportunity around here, which could affect you, but could affect you more so than Mexico, is assisted living. I mean, this is a wonderful, wonderful location. Climate, entertainment. I mean, you can come here and be a teenager, okay? And a lot of you are teenagers, okay? Yeah, and I refuse to grow up myself, okay? Assisted living has maybe 4 or 5 places right now, and they're good, but they're only waiting for people to get sick to come into them from the local community. There's very, very little communication of the opportunity to have assisted living here for people that are north. There are 72 million baby boomers who started retiring about 2 years ago. Right? A huge market, okay? A huge market. If I had 10% of them come here, that would be 7.2 million. Impossible. If I had 1% come, that would be 700,000 of them, okay? Impossible, okay? So all I need as a business person is to attract a fraction of 1%. And look at what I have to offer, okay? I mean, you all ought to be more serious about assisted living and things like that, because it will make lots of jobs for the local people. I'm trying to do something with volcanic ash, because I look around, you know, and I find something. I said, you know, I don't know what to do with this thing here, you know, I don't know what to do with that. But I notice as I get in the mountains, there's a lot of volcanic ash, okay? And so I'm looking at the possibility of making building blocks out of volcanic ash, which are half the weight of other blocks, okay? Because the block doesn't need to be that strong, and so the volcanic ash would do it, and we can make that cheaper. We also have volcanic ash. If it's the right mineral composition, we mine it in the USA as fertilizer, because it has potassium and magnesium and things like that, okay? And then, you know, for the ladies, you know, they get this cream and they rub it on their face, you know, like this exfoliation stuff, you know. I'm going to be beautiful in a few more minutes. I mean, a lot of that is honey and volcanic ash, okay? And so it's just somebody wants to make that and sell it, I'll help you out. Well, anyway, let me shut up because my host here is going to get nervous. You want me to take some questions? Is that it?
That's the idea.
Okay, that's the idea. And I didn't need these glasses, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your wonderful talk. I'm sure we do have lots of questions. Raise your hand. Somebody will bring you the mic, and remember how to hold the mic close to your mouth and at an right angle.
Enjoyed your presentation very much, Todd. Lirio was a huge problem a number of years ago.
Yeah.
We notice it's starting to come back again. Can you explain what could be done about that?
What can be done about it? I would like to be a Lirio rancher, okay? I like to put a fence around Lirio in the lake and then contain it and then mow it down and chop it up. It's about 35% protein, okay? And mix it with corn stalks, and then they feed it to the cows. In China, they grind it up and mix it with rice straw and feed it to the animals, okay? So I'd like to be a Lirio rancher, okay? That stuff comes from the reservoirs up north. There's 500 lakes or dams. Some of them are full, okay? They try to be full. They don't care about here. And so when they open the gate up, what happens is the Lirio comes down, okay? And so the Lirio came down here a couple months ago, and there's some of that in the lake. Every bit of Lirio starts life on the edge of the lake, just like all the little fish, okay? All right, the little fish begin life in the grass. And we don't have any fish because we don't have any grass because the lake keeps moving out, and you leave mud there, okay? And they lay their eggs in the mud, and the other fish eat the eggs, and then we don't have any fish. But the Lirio egg needs to become a plant right there, and it washes out in the lake, and then it's able to propagate, okay? Lirio will double. You know, if I have a square mile of Lirio today, in 2 weeks I'll have 2 square miles, okay? It'll do that. So, yeah, it's not a big problem because, honestly, it blows the Hakotepec, okay?
Todd, one question about that is can that be used in any way to mix and for human digestion?
You mean as a fiber? As a protein? Well, yeah, I guess it could. You know, I mean, I think it's higher than wheat in protein. I mean, the main thing is you got to cut the roots off. Okay, the roots absorb the heavy metals. Okay, and that's a good deal. If you take what does the Lirio do? All right, the lake gets phosphorus and nitrogen into it. Okay, from different kinds of waste. What does Lirio do? It takes the phosphorus and nitrogen out to make protein. Right. And so we turn something in the lake that is not wanted into protein, right? And then we complain about it. You know? It also takes out in its roots the heavy metals, right? Right? The lead, the arsenic, the alimony, not alimony. I'm always worried.
It was mentioned in the paper about an elevated highway going
Oh,
through.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's something, we're all interested in the traffic.
Oh, yeah. Well, there are people here who don't like me, okay? You know? And I came here a couple of years ago, and I proposed a wonderful causeway going across the lake, you know? So you can cross the lake in 6 minutes, and the whole south part of all the people there could have a whole new economy. And I got booed, you know, and people wrote me nasty letters, you know. And, you know, I expected ISIS at my door, you know. And then that was for a causeway, but, you know, I looked at this business of growing traffic in Ahik and all the cars and all that kind of thing, you know, and I costed out a tunnel through the mountain, but it's full of faults. There's earthquakes here, and the tunnel would break up, you know, probably about every 8 years. You already used amount of money. I thought about a road going along the mountain, but it has to go in and out, and it'll be ugly, and I don't like that, and costly. I had a highway, I costed out putting a highway in the lake about 500,000 feet out, right down on the water level, you know. Cars could whiz by and come in and out of Ahik like that. And the lowest cost solution is to take the 4 blocks of Ahik where the people have illegally pushed their store into the street, okay? Because that highway was built around 1950, 131 foot wide right away, okay? If you go to La Foresta, you'll see a wall on a house over there, and you'll see a wall on a house over there. That is the right of way, okay? But for 4 blocks inside of Ahik, okay? If I was a dictator, right, I would send you a letter that in 60 days, if you don't move back, I'm coming with my bulldozer. You know? And I would just cut your house down and load it in a truck. Right? But there are no politicians here, you know. Even one aspiring politician here, you know, he could do that if he won, you know. Okay? But you know, I'm sure he doesn't have the guts either, right? And so I went to this elevated highway, okay? 2 lanes on the current criteria, all new roadway, all new sidewalks, you know, nice benches and bushes and all that, going westward. Coming eastward, on top of it is 2 lanes with sidewalks on it, a bikeway, planters with bougainvillea hanging down to the ground. But I think there's people here that don't want that, you know. Right. Next question.
Earlier in your talk, you spoke about the concern about the western United States becoming a desert,
Yeah.
and some talk about pumping water from the Mississippi. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, well, I can't sleep at night, And so I found a new secret now. I got one of these kitchen timers. You turn for an hour, and anytime I'm tired, it might be 9 o'clock in the morning, it might be 2 o'clock in the morning. I will go out and turn the timer on. I do like this. And I go out for an hour, okay? All right, and so, a lot of times, sometimes I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I want to write till 6 and then I go back to bed. But anyway, in the United States, in the olden times, before 1850, the western United States on the map was labeled as the Great American Desert. That's what it was called, okay? But over time, the federal government allowed hundreds and hundreds of big dams that had been built out there, okay, to collect up the water, okay, and canals and waterways and all that kind of stuff, all right? But you know what? Every dam that you build has a finite life, right? Because what happens? Behind the dam, depending on how muddy the water is, it fills up with sediments, right? And so the life of a dam is somewhere between 20 and 200 years, right? My estimate is that most of the dams in the western United States will be full of sediment in the next 50 years. Therefore, there will be no water stored anymore to run agriculture, to supply cities day by day. There'll be water when it rains, a couple days a year or a couple months a year, and that's it, okay? Can you dig out behind the dam, the silt, okay? You'll find that one of these dams I look at, it has like 200,000 truckloads of silt coming in per day, right? So if I was going to clean it out, I got to do 200,000 truckloads a day just to keep even, right? And to try and compensate for the last 50 years, I'd have an enormous amount of stuff to haul out of there at an enormous cost. And if I said, I'd like to dump it at your place, oh, I don't want any of that stuff, Well, how about I put it at your place? Oh, I don't want it either, Well, once you take it 1,000 miles away, then the cost will be 1,000,000 times more, right? We're not going to dig out these dams. We're not going to de-silt them, right? So these dams were placed at places, as an engineer, where you look at the map and you say, oh, here's a narrow place, and the river comes through, and I can put a dam here at the lowest cost, and behind it is a nice big open area. Every one of those ideal places has been found. Everyone has put a dam in. So your choices of making more dams are at places that are not very suitable, okay? And so, okay, the Mississippi is flowing out, okay? How much water is the Mississippi flowing out into the Gulf of Mexico, all right? This second it's fresh water, this second it's salt water, right? All right? If I try to pump water out of the Mississippi 1,000 miles up or 10 miles up or 100 miles up, somebody's going to complain. You're taking water out, and so I'm not getting water, there's less water coming in. Nobody's going to complain about getting water if I take it out at the end, all right, and down in Louisiana. If I take it out before it goes to the Gulf. If I give people 150 gallons of water per day, okay, which is a lot of water, okay, that's what we designed for the USA. How many people can I support with the water that is now going into the Gulf of Mexico? How many people? What would you guess? Guess one. No idea, no guess. Guess. These gray heads just don't have a guess here. Well, this lady has changing hair color, I think. Okay. All right, well, anyway, the answer is we have 320 million people in the United States, okay? If I could turn the Mississippi around, the whole thing, which I would not do, I could provide water for 1 billion people. All right. So I engineered a system, 2 12-foot diameter pipelines to go across Louisiana, across Texas, up 4,000 foot across into Mexico, back down to California, spur lines going up north to these other states, okay? I have a pump station every 60 miles. I have ponds to retain that water. I have it figured out, okay? But, a lot of people might not like it. But anyway, that's an answer to what I'm talking about. If you want to see the paper, I'll send it to you, okay?
Hi, Todd. Question for you. What is the rate of change of salinity in the lake at any given level because of the activity around the lake? How soon will it get to a point where the life in the lake is unsustainable?
Okay, all right. As long as the water does not change in the lake, let's say 5 foot of water comes in each year, okay, 5 foot, okay? 5 foot of water evaporates off the lake each year. So whatever minerals were in that 5 foot, the minerals stay, right? And the water goes. And so we have an increase every year of more and more minerals, okay? Right now, the critical level is 30%, okay? I think maybe in 10 years, we'll be up to 60%, okay? And there's, you have to keep the lake above 60% to have water that's purifiable. And maybe another 10 years up to 80%. So at some point in time, you know, the government's going to have to face it that they have to flush the water out of Lake Chapala. Right? But I think that since they only need a foot, you know, it might be 80 years before they reach that condition that the water, there isn't enough water in the lake, you know, even if it's full, to feed Guadalajara. And because Guadalajara doesn't have other sources. There are lots of politicians that talk about things. You know, we have a dam up here on the Verde River, and part of that water is going to Guanajuato, and part is coming to Jalisco. It will take care of 1 million people max. Okay? There's 5 million people all there. But yeah, see, the lake is filling up at 2 millimeters of sediment per year. Right? So the lake will no longer exist after you and I are gone, right? Right? I think about 2,000 years. It's 2,000 years. Okay? It'll take for the lake to become a meadow. Right? That is the life of every lake in the world. Okay? It eventually fills up. Next question.
Yeah, I have one today, but a few months ago, published in the Guadalajara Reporter was saying that in 2016 was going to be the lowest level recorded on Lake Chapala. Are you familiar with that?
It's hogwash. I mean, I can fill this lake up, you know, in a couple months, okay? All right? But if I did, it would be disastrous for the farmers, all right? So my plan is, if they let me become the dictator again, you know, is I'll fill the lake up in 5 years, slowly, bit by bit, and I'll tell the farmers, tomatoes, green peppers, cucumbers, okay? And I'll tell them, you know, you don't flood it anymore, we got to put in these pipes, okay? And I'll tell the cigar people, you know, this is what you got to do to help those farmers learn out what's going on, because there are smart people in Mexico, all right? There are educated people in Mexico. There are engineers in Mexico. There are scientists in Mexico, but the government pays zero attention to them. Right? The government has these laboratories. It has places. I mean, the way that I treat wastewater, all biological. Okay? No chemicals, no electricity, all by gravity at 1/10 of the government cost. You know, that does not have an audience with a lot of politicians because it's not a lot of money. Right? The information's out there.
One more.
Have a 10 more.
Hi, really enjoying your talk.
Thank you.
Could you comment about the condition of the aquifer where we're getting our drinking water from?
Okay, yeah. The most water and the best water anywhere in the lake is at IU, right? Without qualification, okay? All right. And we have about 8 wells here in town, okay? We had a new well over there in Villanova, which could, by itself, supply half of Bahia, okay? Right. By contrast, 6 of the 8 wells in Chapala are high in arsenic, okay? But people don't know that, okay? And so I would like to take the water from the lake and purify the lake water like to do at Guadalajara for Guadalajara and some towns like that. I'm sorry, could we repeat your question on my mind? Yeah, just yell at me.
No.
What is the condition of the aquifer?
Oh.
Is it emptying out very quickly?
The water that's in the mountains is working its way down through the rocks in the mountains. The wells that we have, most of them here, are down 300 to 600 foot deep, mostly in rock, okay? And the water they're getting is through the mountain, not from the lake, okay? There are some villages where the water is close to the lake, okay? When I'm down in San Pedro Itzican, at the far east end here, the water coming out of the lake is boiling, okay? Boiling, okay? And so the people let it set for 3 days, right? Like that. Of course, you know there's boiling water out at San Juan Coastline. Right? There are places like that where there are hot zones. I was the other day helping out a 200-acre greenhouse, you know, an $80 million complex over the mountain here with their water. They have boron in their water, okay? Again, from volcanic kinds of problems, okay? And they can't get water, and when the boron gets in the leaf plants, the leaf gets plenty of water, it gets plenty of nitrogen and all that, but the boron tells the leaf, I don't understand photosynthesis. And so then the sunlight comes and the plant only grows half as fast, okay? And they are growing lots of tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers to ship to Canada for sunset produce or something like that you have in Canada. Yeah. And so they have a big operation there, and so I'm trying to help them with the chloride. Next question.
Thanks, Todd. You said that the lake is not half full, so if it's filled up all the way, how many feet is it going to add to its level, and are we going to be standing in water here?
No. If you walk out of the Nuevo Posada, okay, over here, you walk out that door on the street, and you turn like this to the right, and walk 5 steps, you'll be in the water when it's full. That's what it'll be. It has to come up 13 foot. Okay? 13 foot, yeah.
You mentioned that the bottled water
It's
that
dead.
people buy is dead, which means I assume it has no minerals in it.
No
right?
minerals.
It's distilled.
These companies here want to sell Coca-Cola in Paraguay, in Ecuador, in Afghanistan, and they want to taste the same. But if they put their stuff into different tasting waters, it won't taste the same. So they learned a couple of years ago, 10, 20 years ago, to strip out every mineral. And that makes their beer and their soda pop the same. And then they found out that I could convince this lady here that all of her wrinkles would go away. If she would drink this water, all of her children would be intelligent, and her husband would never run away if she drank Bonafont. Okay? In fact, Bonafont says that you'll get thin drinking that water. Okay? Come on, And so I lost the question again.
Yeah, I didn't ask a question yet. My question is, I don't know how many people, local families or expats drink exclusively for this bottled water. But my question is, has it or could it potentially be a public health problem if people are not getting minerals?
Well, what
from the
happens
water?
is that natural water has a lot of natural minerals in it. Okay. A lot of minerals are like at a trace level, we call it, very low levels, okay? When you lose them, there are unknown things happening to your body, okay? Barbara may know back here a lot about minerals in water. Saudi Arabia has a lot of money, okay? So they take the water out of the ocean, and they desalinate it, okay? They make water like this with dead water, but they add back minerals, okay? They put minerals back in the water so their public has water with minerals, okay? But nobody at Coca-Cola is going to tell you that, or Pepsi, right? They're going to sell you that bottle, and he's going to drink it for 5 years and think it's the best tasting water there is. And maybe metabolically it will not work that well in the cells, okay? There are things missing. There's potassium, there's magnesium, and things like that that you need. All right, somebody on the microphone there.
Hi, Todd. Have you up here?
Are you behind the tree somewhere?
Hello?
I'm in the gazebo.
Oh!
Todd, have you...
in the peanut gallery, right?
Yeah, that's us.
Buffalo Bob and Clarabelle and Chief Thunderthud.
He's over there. Have you tested the water at any of the filtration stations along the carretera? I buy my water in Riberas, and you said as you approach Chapala, the water tends to have arsenic in it.
Yeah.
It would be nice to know if where I'm buying water it doesn't have arsenic.
If you drive your car towards Guadalajara, okay? If you drive, okay. The people in the village like the way I go. All right, anyway, if you drive north to that big city, okay? All right? If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see trucks being filled up with water, okay? Tank trucks about just before you get to Dos Burritos, okay? All right? That's where the water's coming from. That comes in here, that goes to these local bottling, these local water places, okay? They run it through a reverse osmosis machine again, okay? But that's where they get the water. They know better than get the water from Chapala, okay? Because they're smart enough to know there's too much arsenic there.
Here. In about 10 or 15 years, when the people that spend their weekends at Senderos del Lago, down by Jocotepec, when they all retire and decide to live there full time, where's that water going to come from?
Okay. Mexican people care about water at this level, okay? Mexican people care about wastewater about that level, okay? So the people that sold those houses sold it with some wells, okay? And there are wells in the mountain, and they could drill more wells and get water, okay? The problem is they've never done anything about the wastewater come from, because I mean the mayor before now sold off zoning rights and building permits, you know, with more money than my pockets probably could hold, you know, and bought himself a position in the federal government as a deputado, okay, you know, a congressional deputy at the federal level. And he's coming back this year to try to be mayor again out there. So anyway, he, you know, created that problem, okay? But nobody addressed the wastewater. Nobody likes to do wastewater because it costs 3 times as much money to treat wastewater as it does to make water. Right? And so people like to make water because people will give them votes. They don't like to treat wastewater because nobody will give them votes. Okay? I mean, that's the way life is. So I think they'll be able to do the water okay. If they want, I'll take the water out of the lake. In other words, if I gave the 300,000 people around the lake, if I gave them the drinking water from the lake, okay, I would use 1 inch of water off the lake per year. 1 inch. 1 inch would give all the people around the lake here water like Guadalajara gets now by purifying lake water. Okay?
That was going to be my question. I mean, what is the relative cost of drilling all these wells versus putting in sand filters and using the lake?
Okay. There are a lot of people in the world who want to be good, okay? And sometimes their brains are empty, you know? And what I mean is they have a good heart, you know, but they haven't thought about it, you know, they haven't really researched it, you know, and I want to drill a well for this, I want to do this, you know. And engineers, we work on money, okay? If we can't make a project, you know, at the lowest cost, if we can't have the project make money, we can't do it, okay? I don't mean to say I'm greedy or something, okay? I mean, I've been working free for 20 years, right? But when you drill wells, they're expensive compared to treating surface water. If there's surface water anywhere, the #1 thing you should do is treat the surface water, okay? You know, I mean, I was in Nigeria a couple times, and that's what you know, the water going by looked like coffee, okay? But it was better for me to treat that than to try and drill wells. If I drill a well here, you know, it's basically 1,000,000 pesos a well, okay? 1,000,000 pesos. I drill, nothing, okay, 1,000,000 pesos. You know, nothing. I mean, the guy comes out with a stick, you know, oh, you know. Drill there, you know, 1,000,000 pesos, nothing, okay? All right? And then the guy gets water, and then it's full of arsenic, okay? Or that